Chapter 5 Wolfpack at Air. After Hib Zibnik whipped them into shape, the P-47 pilots of the 56th Fighter Group went on to score 902.5 confirmed kills. As the survivors of the 56th Fighter Group straggled back in over the British field, the commanding officer came down out of the control tower to meet them. Lieutenant Colonel Hubert Zimmer had listened helplessly to the radio chatter as his men met the enemy over German-occupied Holland for the first time. It was April 1943, and the Luftwaffe was still a formidable fighting force. From the confused radio traffic, Zimmer could tell the combat had not gone well. Missing from the runway commentary, the voice of Major Dave Skelling of the 62nd Squadron commander, to whom Zach had enlisted the mission. Now as Zimmer plane put down, Zimmer told a mission. Now as Zimmer plane put down, Zimmer took a jeep over to find out what had gone wrong. The major fighter, Havoc Joe, had taken some hits, but the radio Skilling explained had gone out before the group ever reached the Dutch coast. Rather than abort the dashing but ambitious Skelton had resumed command, and upon sighting a pair of bandits, he had led the 60-second attack scoreless, ambushed by Messerschmitt Me-109s and Focke-Wulf FW-190s. They and the group two remaining squadrons, the 61st, first, and with the Focke-Wulf F-190s, the group remained shadows. The 61st and 63rd barely escaped back over the English Channel. Many of the missing pilots, their aircraft running low on fuel, had simply set down at the first English airfields they came across, but two did not return. It had been Zimmer later recalled as inertious combat debut, after commander might have taken it and his enjoyment of his own leadership skills. Zermatt had told the 56 only the previous year, a 28-year-old lieutenant with experience only as a combat observer in Great Britain and as a fighter pilot instructor in Russia. Zermatt's uncle had died flying for Germany in 1916, and two cousins were killed on the Russian front, while Zimmer was in Moscow and the rapidly expanding U.S. Army Air Force. However, promotion came easily, and he had risen quickly to captain, then major. Unlikely as a lieutenant colonel, he was placed in command of the group. The 56th had lost 18 men even before shipping for England. He had uttered communications by some gung-ho flyboys at brand-new double-propane Republic P-47B Thunderbolt, the Jag. The pilots were all eager young fellows who thought the Thunderbolt was a terrific fighter simply because they had flown nothing else, said Zenarek. Above 20,000 feet, the P-47 was capable of speeds of up to 400 miles per hour, had the quickest roll rate of any fighter in the U.S. inventory, but even with a turbo supercharged Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp radical engine capable in later models of 2,800 horsepower. The plane required almost a half-mile run just to get 50 feet off the ground. Zemeckis noted that the aircraft accelerated poorly and climbed not too much better than the slow airspeed, and overall the P-47 was a big disappointment. In England, the 56 over an ex-RAF Royal Air Force grass strip in Horseman St. Faith, Norfolk County, was an returning over airstrip to Zamak. Sterling pilots Governor Zinnerman, the Royal Air Force Station Chief, grinned, saying, "Sounds like I'm handing over to the Luftwaffe," equipped with new P-47Cs, joined the 4th Fighter Group. A couple of reduced fighters swept into the Luftwaffe into combat that Zemeck had told about because an oxygen system malfunctioned, and on the group's first from a bomber escort mission from when the P-47 was in Blunt, had hard drag nose design has its own radio, went out because of faulty ignition system. Early model P-47 suffered from indirect radio static. His men bounced some buoys over Western Island, knocked one down, realizing too late the fighters were British and all farmers the RAF had stayed from its assigned area and had to heat of combat. The Sharon's pilots failed at aircraft recognition, but in view of the group's dismissal record and aware that his two upper be as a manufacturer of nature rather than equipment, Zemeck, upon his promotion to bird full colonel, supposed he would be bumped upstairs to make room for more capable group commander. Finally, on June 12th, the 56th flew another redo 20,000 feet above D. Casa. German Jagerwerger fighter wing 26 had made these guys so much its own that its pilots were known to Allied airmen as the Ability Boys, named after the town where they were based by flying 10,000 feet lower than usual. The group caught JG-26 by surprise over Europe's Belgium, cutting the 76 flue flight down after a successful squadron of FW-190s as the Jerry's struck as skirmish flight over moved around into kill position on blue flight tail. Thereupon Captain Rowe took the trap and led yellow flight down to the risk. Yet opened fire, firing from 300 yards. Suddenly a big ball of fire approached on his left wing and then back with smoke behind him. Recalled he rolled around his head again. Zek led the 67th Squadron down behind a skirmish of Fokker-Wolfs, pulling from 200 yards. 4th Aircraft Simic Replenish deployed after first throwing the fuselage into flames, spreading over the right. The 3rd enemy plane twisted away from meanwhile, the 61st Lieutenant Bob Johnson, an aggressive Oklahoman fire, choosing the tail end Charlie, shot his flight left formation to a solo attack. Then later I recall that this was a Focke-Wulf. John recalled that the man inside was a German, or that if he managed to whirl the back-kill airplane through the four cannons and two heavy guns with their hurling steel explosively, John flamed the F-190 with the first burst by becoming formation. However, you have a player lead Lieutenant Jerry Johnson in the squadron, Major Chris Caddy, Hero Zimmick, who himself the style had not been stopped by his own double kill. I doubt I adjured Bob to his flying commander crew. Zimmick later advised that it was good to know I had pilots of such a crushing to train men downing German aircraft for the first time, being Bob Johnson swore the Krauts are going to have to shoot me out of formation. 2 weeks later, he made good on his promise. His P-47 half painted was again bringing up the rear with Johnson's but 16 more fighters above and behind. Focke-Wulf's the available boys diving in from the kill. He called out a warning to the rest of the group, but for the formation nobody moved. Johnson had positioned a perfect target as the German ranked him with fire, and then his P-47 swinging downwards out of control with the canopy jammed shut, trapped him in a cockpit full of fire, thus speeding his drive blew out the flames. Johnson managed to coast his crippled mounted towards the channel. Just when he thought he had made good in his escape, a lone F-190 joined behind him, unable to dogfight, but unwilling to just sit there and just take it. Johnson used his lack of speed to force the Fokker into an overshot so that he could turn the tables easily. Evading Johnson's fire, the German cycled back to shoot him up twice more. Still half refused to go down. Finally, the German gave up, rocked his wings, and grudged salute and turned back. With 21 cannon, his more than 100 bullets holes in his jug, Johnson made it across the channel to a no flaps, no brakes landing at RAF base near Dover. Ground looping stop. Parked Hawker Typhoons that day. The 36, won by Kennedy, drove its own in July with a bomber group over Henson. The Zimmerman half-built base at Harrisburg of the English Air Force bomber commanders in the session. The 4th Bomber Colonel Chris LeMay, chief of post-war Strategic Air Command, piloted the only fighters he had seen so far. All had black and white crosses on them, but declared his bombers would carry on with or without fighter escort. Later in the officers' club and another bomber group, strategically he wouldn't pay a dime a dozen for any fighter pilots. Simic heard his pocket change at the men's feet. Here, Joe, is all I have handy at the moment, he responded. Anytime you have a couple dozen fighter pilots handy, send them my way. We can sure use them. Then he jumped in his jug and buzzed the plane. The bomber crews had good reason to be eagerly. They are about to embark on one of the buddy's missions, the first Frankfurt Railroad. After escorting the B-17 Vorters part way to Summerfield, the 56 returned to Ellsworth and took on 200-gallon per paper Fury tanks converted for combat use. These upset the jugs handled and did not feed well in the low air pressure above 20,000 feet, but they gave the Thunderbolts enough range to meet the bombers over Germany. The Thunderbolts proceed to attack a twin-engine Messerschmitt Me-110 night fighters not to venture out in the daylight. The 61st Squadron came screaming down the front and caught an Me-110 right over the last box of bombers. Some recall the two P-47s shot at this guy at the same time, 16 guns firing, and both of them hit the cemetery, so the Me-110 blew up. As I've seen anything blow up and fell on fire directly through the bomber formation without hitting one of them. One of the Me-110 shooters was Jerry Johnson, who drowned two more Germans quickly successed the 56 triple kill, and for Messerschmitt 2 days later, Johnson got an Me-109, which could have made him the 56th first ace instead of scoring stood at 4.5. Thurman had gotten an Me-110 as combat. Long came assumed. Soon after Zimmer won the bomber, he had sight of the new commissioned B-24 Liberators in formation and Thunderbolts tail and sucked into bomber's prop. The four-engine B-24 had strangled home, but Matron had barely escaped from his falling jug. Now he saw the chance to make amends. He had spotted a Fokker above the bombers, preparing to turn down into the right hand. Recalled, I sneaked up behind and started to fire about 300 yards, closing 200 yards. It blew up. Person is the bomber streamed into the tail of a second F-190. We followed him and started him to turn into the into the bombers, said Mahan. Election shot up and watched him blow up. No one to hold a grudge. Zimmerman to hold Dr. Zimmerman flying cross. Later, it turned out that one of his kills was none other than the commander, 2nd Group GG-26 Irish General of Fighters, Edward Garland, and himself a 55 Victory Expert ace. His body was found in his aircraft 2 months later, driven by the force of impact 12 feet into the ground. Bomber Command lost 60 of the 375 bombers on the mission, but the 56 growing 17 confirmed, 1 probable, and 9 damaged. With even more certain, we certainly broken up several German attacks, Zemek said. In August 1943, the 56 Top Group began to in September. Zemek told the longest mission yet, a 250-mile round to Emden, Germany. P-37 had received new 75-gallon underweight tanks made of metal and pressure to beat all altitudes, during a long, lone Walker with standard struggling B-17 several thousand feet below Zimmerman took dive and received from 500 yards. Immediately strikes were returned all over aircraft. He reported, suddenly the Fokker flew on in straight line and burst into smoke and flames. And Third, caused the under wing church struggling fall even observed. I conclude that the enclave had been observed. I can conclude that the first killed the pilot that made Jimmy the 56th first ace by a narrow margin. Scowen, who had not scored a victory in 52 missions, got two the same day, and third by October 10th, when Bob, Jerry, and Johnson each got with four of the five American aces in Europe. Theater of Operation Digital 56 never looked back, scoring its 100th kill. Elizabeth ME210, no number 5 at this time, Major Grant 765, and November 26 during a rampage during the back, the nickname given to the 56 score, record 23 confirmed, 3 powerful and 9 damaging for 2 for Karabatsky, a second generation Paul who had flown a Curtis P-40 Tomahawk during the Pearl Harbor attack, and a Supreme Spitfire Mark 9 with the free poles in RAF service. Karabatsky brought down on a pair of ME-110s that drove away the mistaken for the first drug. I could go roughly 700 yards. Dropping of the 110, I could barely have time to push back on the ME-110. 600 yards, the 110 took solid hits in its wing into a depth fall of 14,000 feet. Kills, Roski of 110, 20 kills. With the Luftwaffe lost 22% of the pilots, a blow from which never really recovered, and the 56 were then on March 27th, when shooting down a donor GO-217 bomber south of Taurus Mahon, was hit by its rear gunner. I could see the shadow of my airplane with a great long trail of black smoke following me. Mahon recalled he believed he was the last seen running for tree line, and Jerry Johnson was 18 kills to credit. He was hit by ground fire while suffering a truck convoy and several personnel fell in. Milton made it back to England via the French underground in an RAF rescue plane, but he was not present to risk capture, which might mean having to reveal the secrets of his escape route again. Testimony to the Pacific Theater, man scored another kill before the war was ended, while 3.5 MiGs in the Korean War, before being shot down again with captured by the North Koreans. So the mounting of high score to Bob Johnson by early May 1944 near combat. Johnson led the EGO with 25 victories, just one less than wartime World War I ace Eddie Ruggenbacher, returning from the last mission, returned to Berlin on May 8th. He rolled onto the tail of a passing ME-109. The jury Dentist recalled close enough anyone that May 26th that Johnson scared off the lead FW-190 with a fierce burst of running number 27. By now the Wolfpack flying out of Boxted Texas has cutting more than 400 kills, had developed the P-47 tactics at high height, and the attack division Zimmerman, the 56th Fighter Group, presented awesome spectacle. On June 27, Karabatsky drove down ME-109 to match Bob Johnson's score. On July 5th, He shot down another Mitchell near Iraq too. So Grosky had 28 aerial kills and 2.5 the ground, and the ETO had new high score, but Johnson before Gurley was neither in it, and at the end of quarter time, he coming down deck. Grossi saw tactics over HE-111, which he dropped the nose, and the P-47 big paddle drop. He failed but captured. He went on to fly North American F-86 Sabre jets over Korea as Burnett and coming down 6.5 megs at the 56 original Aces. Only 6-inch crew remained offered command of the 429th Fighter Group. Lucky P-38 Lightning string was held. No, not P-38s. It was Sherman with Zetterman took it instead. The one group divine command said Zenrick as there were need of a change of new proposal, but behind the big the P-47 Zenrick scored his Skoda 2017 escort over Germany. The North American P-51 Mustang he was flying that day came apart in a thunderstorm. Zenrick got to safety only to be captured. Gentleman departure made the Wolfpack darkest chapter. On September 17th, the group was handed the dirtiest ground attack work all anti-aircraft put out. 37 put out, but 17 B-47s were destroyed and a dozen two pilots, the JJ-26, the Des Base 07. October 1944 was quiet. The 8th Air Force, the Luftwaffe, was starting its research planes and field reserves for the gross so the Great Flue for news in which the Germans hoped to prevent the invasion of the fatherland as they planned fell with good dark cover not until December 23rd till led men over the battle, where he lost track of two fugitive enemy formations in the clouds. He only took control trailers. There was a large enemy formation with 40 plus more flying new Fokkers FW-190Ds. Long haul to the 61st. Down German blows codeword the 62nd around. I managed to hit the right rear ME-190 109 with above 20-degree deflection, shot at degrees of 700 yards, curling Ricard as the Mr. Spit dropped off. Scrotum moved on the line. I picked up another and fired about 1,000 yards and missed as he broke right straight to dive. The for a deck above 17,000 feet, I had close to about 500 yards ahead of the sky. 35 to 40 Parker was circling 1,000 feet below him. I was rolled the same tactics as before, attacking from about 500 yards as the updating went down yards, fired up 300 yards above the ground. 63rd is wingman to have 35 enemy aircraft, 825%, 65 hit cars, war, 2.5 aerial and 11.5 ground kills. After that, the final check mergers with ME-262 jet fighters. The Reflect had downed jets before with lucky passes or by catching them after the runways. They had struck with the jug with all groups went to 51 and were sole versions of the P-47M operating to produce 456 miles per hour, more speed than a Mustang, with each car handled combat the jets. April 5th, 1945, a Wolfpack pilot actually rammed down a Tu-62 in a shallow dive, attempting to turn the his German pilot was cut off, shot down on April 13th, the second anniversary of its first combat mission across the field, 78,000 rounds of 50 caliber, destroying 19, magic number 1,000 destroyed. Later, that score reduced to 56 command group. There's a 992 and a half confirmed kills, including 664 and a half in the air, and other 8 Air Force group found more than 56. They probably 543 damaged in the air and on the ground. At war end, the P-47M was examined under the Eiffel Tower. Its nose inlet was the Legend General Wolfpack 56 Group 1000 enemy aircraft destroyed. A fighter pilot must pass and enter urge for combat, Zimmick said. There was at a time to be offered with developed into his own tactics essay, but then it was destroyed. Out of ammunition, he evades into the crowds or into too low on gasoline to continue the combat. That's the end of chapter 5. I'll write chapter 6 tomorrow. And I thank the veterans for fighting for me to be free. And if you see a veteran that seems to be sad, maybe give them a tea or coffee. Maybe they just need a friend. And just be their friend. Well, that's all for me for right now. It's called me Gamer Son and Ralph. I thank the veterans so I can make these videos.